You know that first cup of coffee in the morning, that absolute lifesaver? Well, have you ever really stopped to think about what that fuel is actually doing inside your brain? Get this. About 90% of adults across the entire globe use this psychoactive substance every single day. That makes it, by a long shot, the most popular mind-altering drug on the planet.
But how does it really work? I mean, how does that simple cup of tea or coffee just flip a switch in our brain, taking us from groggy to good to go? Well, let's dive in and find out.
All right, so here's the game plan. We're going to look at what makes caffeine the world's favorite drug. Then we'll get into the science of what makes you sleepy in the first place, and then see how caffeine pulls off this great brain hijack. We'll cover the benefits of that buzz, but also, the catch. And finally, we'll ask the big question. Is it a friend, a foe, or just fuel? So what is this stuff anyway? At its core, caffeine is a completely natural chemical stimulant. Its main job is to rev up your central nervous system, that's your brain and your spinal cord, which is exactly what makes you feel more awake and on the ball. But here's the secret, the real twist in the story. To understand caffeine's magic trick, we first have to understand what makes us feel tired to begin with. And it all comes down to one single, super important molecule in your brain. And that molecule is called adenosine. Think of it as your brain's own personal off switch. As you go about your day, thinking, working, doing, adenosine levels just slowly and steadily rise, sending this gentle signal that, hey, maybe it's time to start winding down. So here's how it works. Your brain cells run on this energy called ATP. As they burn through it, they leave adenosine behind as a byproduct. This adenosine then floats around and docks into these special receptors on your neurons. And when it locks in, it basically tells that neuron to slow down its firing rate. So the more adenosine that docks, the slower your brain activity gets and the sleepier you feel. It's actually a beautiful natural cycle.
It's a beautiful natural process. Until caffeine crashes the party. This is where our story takes a dramatic turn. Because caffeine is the ultimate imposter.
Okay. This is the big aha moment. Think of your adenosine receptors as little locks. Adenosine is the perfect key. It slides in, it turns the lock, and that triggers sleepiness. Now here comes caffeine. Structurally, it's so similar that it can also slide right into that same lock. But here's the catch. It's the wrong key. It fits, but it can't turn, so it just sits there, physically blocking the real key, adenosine, from ever getting in.
And this is maybe the most important thing to get. Caffeine doesn't give you energy. It's not fuel. It's more like a bouncer at the door of your brain's receptors, physically stopping the tired molecules from getting in. The only reason you feel more awake is because your brain is being tricked. It has no idea that adenosine is still building up, just waiting to get in.
So if caffeine is just a blocker, what are the actual benefits of this little trick? Let's look at the upside of the cup.
By preventing that natural slowdown, studies have shown that caffeine can give you a pretty significant cognitive boost. We're talking an improved mood, sharper attention, clearer reasoning, even faster reaction times. But there is a catch. These effects are way more powerful when you're already fatigued. If you're already bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, you might not notice as big of a difference.
But of course, you knew it wasn't all good news. There's a reason we can call it the caffeine catch. Your body is incredibly smart, and it really doesn't like being tricked for long.
This is what leads to tolerance. If you're constantly blocking those adenosine receptors, your brain fights back. It says, fine, I'll just build more of them. This is a process called upregulation. So now you have more locks for adenosine to fit into, which means you need to drink more caffeine just to get that same alert feeling you used to get from just one cup.
And remember, caffeine doesn't just hang out in your brain. It circulates through your entire body. That's why it can have other side effects. It can raise your blood pressure and heart rate. It's a mild diuretic, which is just a fancy way of saying it might make you visit the restroom more, and for a lot of us, it can cause those all too familiar feelings of jitters and anxiety.
And what happens if you suddenly stop? Well, with all those extra adenosine receptors your brain built, that tired signal comes rushing in like a tidal wave. And that is exactly what causes those classic withdrawal symptoms, the pounding headache, that crushing fatigue, and that inescapable brain fog.
So, when you put it all together, what's the final verdict? Is caffeine a helpful friend, a harmful foe, or just simple fuel? As you might have guessed, the answer isn't so black and white.
The key here is to see the nuance. Caffeine is not addictive in the same destructive way as, say, hard drugs. A much, much better way to think of it is as a tool. A powerful one, for sure, but a tool nonetheless.
And like any tool, its value depends entirely on how you choose to use it.
And when you see it as a tool, it has some pretty surprising applications. It's used therapeutically, often combined with pain relievers to fight headaches. Some research even suggests it might help reduce the risk of neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. And then some people use it very strategically, maybe just once or twice a week, to get the full cognitive boost without building up a tolerance.
So now you know the real story. That morning coffee isn't adding energy, it's just performing a very clever hijack of your brain's natural sleep system. Which leaves us with a fascinating question to consider. What role does this brain hijacker play in your life? Is it a helpful tool, a simple treat, or maybe a daily crutch? The choice, of course, is yours.